driving my car. Just strange, you know, because we're all thinking this and that, you know. The nurturers, we the nurturers, and we believe in the expression of consciousness. And we're troubled. And we were talking before about trouble. Hi Karen. Hi to the new subscribers. Yeah. When we perceived there was trouble, we instinctively intuit this trouble, and so we put our best foot forward and we said something about it. I mean, it's only the way. This problem manifests itself in all these places, and it's like a Trojan virus, so we can't actually fix anything, because even while we're trying to fix something, it's rebooting itself from all these other places. And so it's been a tricky problem, right? And now the virus is here. And this is shutting down the financial system and the political system. And so it's shutting down all of the macro environment. It's at the micro level, right? People really people are discovering family life. You know, these people, you know, the normal people, just normal people, and everywhere in the world is the same, right? You know, no kids have had their parents at home. And back in the day, Mum was home all the time. Dad went to work, Mum was home all the time. And to grow good kids, like, this is very good for kids, right? And it serves to contribute to the health and security of people. And see, the human being, I don't believe, has changed at all. I think our environment has changed. It's the influence of the financial system that is projected by the media. Like I think with the very, very famous US election of Donald Trump. You know, there's a pretty good reason why he got so much support. There's a pretty good reason. He knew what to say. He said the right things. He was the right guy. You know, pretty good reason. And I mean, it's freaking rigged up to the eyeballs, because, you know, like 4 years. Okay, 4 years, right? They played this news story on the news here in New Zealand, right? And this is no lie, man. This happened, right? This happened around about 7 years ago or something like that. It was a while ago. There was a news story they ran here on the Canadian-owned TV3 network here in New Zealand called MediaWorks, right? I mean, that might have changed hands, who knows how many times by now, but TV3 was started by a Canadian media company, and they played the story about these Indian villagers that built a statue of Donald Trump out of ice cream. So I mean, it's this comprehensive blanket approach, you know, and so yeah, there's it's hard to see the actual problem of it because we live inside the elephant. It's not that there's an elephant in the living room. It's actually that we're living inside the elephant, and so yeah, Donald Trump. They had to do something because the IMF and the World Bank can't put debt anywhere anymore because banks believe that debt is money, and so they couldn't put debt anywhere. Okay, everywhere had gotten more peaceful, and they had improved their quality of life, and they were economically more viable, and so they didn't need as much debt, and so that's what the Ukraine civil war was about. You know, Ukrainians didn't want this IMF deal that would have put Ukraine in debt for 50 years. They didn't want that. And so that's why Donald Trump got elected, because the only income that they could possibly have was to reboot the middle class and manufacturing in the US. And they started reversing a lot of their hard work. Right, they called it in the US company inversion, where they use regulations to push companies offshore. And Donald Trump looked like such the good guy for bringing those companies back, changing the rules so they could come back, you know. It's a fraud, man. It's an absolute fraud. The whole thing has been stage managed. And it's difficult to see it because this has all been done from a third party position, right? A third party position. And so this is why it's very difficult to detect, because the media tell it to us like they put it in terms of something that the public understand, and they play it like how they play it, and it's important. They say that it's really important that we've got a healthy banking system. Actually, that's our problem. You know, it's about relinquishing control of your own life to serve someone else. And they've created the situation where they've achieved that. And so this virus situation with this lockdown, this is the best news ever. This is the best thing that could have happened to the human race, because actually it shuts all those practices down, and all these people, the human race, are all starting to talk. They're all starting to think, you know, because one thing about this lockdown, everyone's getting a very, very high quality emotional rest. Very. a really serious emotional rest. You know, how good is work if you're like working from home? You've got your little computer set up and it's all linked to the factory network, and it's like you're sitting there in your pajamas with your toast at 11 in the morning, because you're spreading your workload out, you know, over a 24-hour period. And so everyone might be going about their job, if they're working from home, in a way more relaxed way. One thing, they don't need to get dressed up, you know. And so that's part of this emotional rest thing. Everyone is much more relaxed. I know staying at home, man, it's hard on the brain, eh? It's like, holy shit. But actually, everyone is much, much more relaxed. Everyone's getting much more sleep. And that's always a good thing. So that's where it turns into 24 hours, because it's like, you know, I'm getting like, you know, I can easily get 3 or 4 hours of sleep in the day, and then you're able, you know, then 10 p.m. at night feels like 5 p.m. And so people are feeling much better, I think, and I'm really interested and to see some of the statistics. Probably wait for a couple, uh, well, it'll come out what change to New Zealand society this has made. And I really am sure that the suicide rate, which is significant in New Zealand, right, would have dropped like a lot. Because all the drivers of this emotional dis-ease that is the big component of suicides, has evaporated in this situation. Yeah, so see all these big systems, the macro systems, they're like falling over pretty much hard out, and so it's a very interesting situation, because this has happened before. You know, I thought I heard somewhere someone saying that it's called COVID-19 because this is the 19th time that it's happened. No, because it started in 2019, and there's all this talk. You know, there was this talk about, it's Wuhan in China. It came from Wuhan in China, and there's a laboratory there very close to a food market where they think the disease came from. Well, I've seen some significant backlash against that idea, because the situation with the financial system is it's completely within their track record of how they do things, that they have made this virus happen, right? Because the money has control of all of science. Money has control of all of science or of logistics. And it's no problem for them. It's no problem for them to do this. So, I mean, you can verify what I'm saying, you know. You can see that Wall Street, the Dow Jones, you see how much that's dropped. So the whole society's stopped in its tracks, right? And how come Wall Street still hasn't dropped, right? It hasn't. And so you know that it's an artificial, it's like a political character or something. And they use the economics of it to manipulate their political position in society. And so they like to make everyone poor, and that way they are easier to govern. And so this is the thing of it. And this is the only real way. It was said a very long time ago by a famous Chinese man. The more educated a people are, the harder they are to govern. But the thing of it is, that only applies when the governing body is not governing according to the interests of the people. And this is what's happening. See, most normal people of the 99% don't have fantasies about being wealthy. So I didn't buy my car there because I think I want to be a rich man. I bought it for the experience of it. It's a V8 sports car, and it's got a really good stereo. Holy shit. So this is the difference between us and them. And because of the nature of the problem that causes their compulsion, it doesn't matter how much money they've got, and actually it's how much money they've got has nothing to do with it. Actually, they have a compulsion to prevail over other people, and this is the thing. This is the real thing going on. This is the driver of a lot of behaviour, and so the situation we're in, right? We are, they're going to try and stay in charge of everything, and they can't, because the lockdown is going to give everybody a big time out where we can discover our actual true, our true selves, who we actually are, what's actually important. And the media are conceding that, we used to spend all this money on all these things we used to think was important, and now we can see that actually none of that shit was important. And this woman radio announcer, talkback host, she used to buy dresses in 2 sizes all the time, and she was saying that she thinks that was a bit mad to do that. And see, that's actually the discovery of the self. It's not our physical selves, it's actually our consciousness. And that realization she had was about our consciousness. And so this is why I'm very sure that the opportunity is there. If an amnesty was presented to the wealthy people of the world, they'd leap at it. They would leap at it because they might have billions of dollars, but they can't operate outside of that. They're trapped, and the path which led them to that situation, living in a wholly separate experience to the 99%, started when they were actually very young. Started when they were very young. And I just know that a lot of them, they would drive past, you know, in their Bentleys or their Ferraris and things, and they would see a middle class family, having a barbecue on the front lawn, right? And they would feel unwelcome. They know they would know that they would be unwelcome in that place. And so that's a problem to me. It's great sadness that should be the case. So I'll call it that. I feel that these big macro entities, they need to be nationalised, and that would be my reason. It's because it turns people into slaves. Who's the biggest slave? Me, who can work 40, 50, 60 hours a week and then go home and just chill out and just do nothing. All these people with billions of dollars where they cannot stop thinking about money. They cannot stop thinking about money. And this is party to the reality that is consciousness that's prevailing. See, people see the billionaires and that's what they think they are. They're billionaire people, and they see themselves, and they might be middle class or poor or something, and then there's poor people, and you might think that of them, and it's all that. And no, you see, everyone is actually trying to express consciousness. They're trying to express consciousness, and that's all they want to do. And so for me, I can sit here, I can just do nothing. I can just sit there and do nothing. And I'm allowing my consciousness to relax and drift, and it's really nice. I'm not ashamed to say I'm lazy. I'm a lazy person, man. Because I value consciousness. And so we, the people, which include all the billionaires, need to, consciousness requires people to take notice of other people, and we should share. We should share what's going on. And so a lot of what is happening at the macro level with the billionaires, they're doing it because they want control of it, because in their little game they play, they want to be in control, they want to dominate at the market, they want to, and so the drinky drinks they have where they can skite and brag, that's only at the very tail end of that's well after the fact, right? And so a lot of the stuff, when it comes to food production, how they've tried to make necessary pesticides and things, this is why that is happening. And so with this lockdown, I believe people are going to be able to think. And I know that like these billionaire people, they all sit around and they're all mates and that, and their little club and that, and I wonder what the YouTube data is actually telling them. Because they're watching what we watch. I mean, they don't watch what we watch, of course, but they get the data about who's watching what, whatever, you know, and of the general kind of subject matter. See, there are implications and consequences to one's actions. And now that the oneness, which is all the people in the world, the collective consciousness is having this experience where the economy of the world, the global economy is gone, man, it's shut down, it's not happening. And all the central banks are freaking out, wondering how we can stay relevant, man. How can we stay relevant, man? Because that's the only thing, like the European Union. That's the only thing it was about. It was about validating and ratifying a small group to control everything. That's this billionaire mentality. And the light. And they, I can't even believe they got sucked into it. No. Yeah, so this is what's been going on, man. Tell you what I watch, right? I watched the Kaiser Report. Kaiser Report with Max Kaiser and Stacey. Yanis Varoufakis, famous economist, ex Minister of Finance for Greece. He spoke of something in a video I saw recently of the banks reach way into the future and bring back value, and then they give that value to the person. It's a mortgage. And what if that practice was made illegal? Because they haven't got any money, the banks, man. They don't have any money. How they write a mortgage and then you repay the mortgage, right? Actually, no money has changed hands. It's some pixels on a screen. It's a piece of paper. No money has changed hands. A logical person might think that since there's no money involved in the transaction, why can't we just have stuff? Why can't we just have stuff, you know? So this is this ridiculousness of materialism. So if it was known, if it was widely known, it was common knowledge, the revelation of the 8 laws, we could abandon having money, because it would be a memorandum of understanding that helping people, being generous to people, this makes you feel good. Like me, I went to work, so I work downtown there, man, you know. It's about 20 minutes drive. I'm in the north of Auckland, right? Over the harbour bridge. And I drive south, down to South Auckland. And so I come back, you know, under the lockdown conditions, and I think, oh, yeah, we'll go through the main, you know, through Auckland City. And all the poor homeless people are hanging out there still. And it's quite something to give them some money or something, you know. It's a hard case, man. Because they're freaking out. They don't see anyone, right? You know, they're not seeing anyone. They're in this big city, the whole big city, the centre, the CBD of a big city, right? And there's no one there. Only the homeless people. So what kind of personal growth is that causing in them? So I give them some money, you know. They always want cigarettes, man, you know. And so I'm saying that, yeah, they should nationalise all these big companies. So say here, one of the great problems that we've got, it's a freak accident, man, you know. The function of money is the great imposter of the function of consciousness. That's a central issue of how the system has its political status. So if you have lots of money, it gives the impression that you have more stronger consciousness. And this is a central thing of it. And so you see, it's not actually the elephant in the living room, right? It's the reality exists fundamental to the face value, right? You get the character of consciousness. You get what we value most highly, which is the expression of consciousness. And you get the format that we have. And so we decide how can we express consciousness in this format. So these billionaire guys, right? That, you know, that genre of political theatre, which is what wealth, it comes with wealth, right? They're actually only doing what everyone else is doing, according to the primary belief of, well, the Western world, people in the Western world, which is the expression of consciousness. Okay? And so that's why they, like a major company in New Zealand called Fonterra, that deals in agricultural, it's milk, it's cheese, it's stuff like that, you know, from the cows. They believe they have the moral license, because they say they're feeding the world. Oh, we're feeding the world, they say. Which is complete narcissism, eh? It's like, holy shit. But it's coming from this compulsion to express consciousness and to express consciousness and to express loyalty to consciousness. And they do things according to the format that they're in. So a crazy situation has developed where everyone in the middle management of any company because they have to achieve the aspirations of the owner, when they don't actually have control, all they're able to do is tell people what to do. They have anxieties. And that's a story on its own. How the middle management of in every instance is actually driven by anxieties because they believe that anxiety is wisdom. So preceding the revelation of the 8 laws was this knowledge that, it came to me that actually narcissism is corrupted prowess. Narcissism is this is consciousness that is defeatist. It's defeatist. So you have the thing where these beliefs that come along, it changes the focus of consciousness, and narcissism really is because people aren't doing anything. That's the narcissism. Because if they had the passion and the drive to express consciousness in a big, bold way, it doesn't look like narcissism, does it? It looks like someone who starts a big company. Yeah. I think it's a fair call. Narcissism only exists while the person isn't actually doing anything, right? And so we can assume that and see, so these big corporates, these billionaires, they've already achieved greatness, right? And they actually haven't got anything else to do and they don't value education because they're just tunnel vision, man. And so a lot of it is actually, you know, how these big companies operate, these hedge funds and all that. It's actually just narcissism, right?